So we think we're helping. I'm Corey Glazier, and this is a presentation of Chapel University. This is a girl named Jacobia. Okay, in this last program that we were involved with in 2011 in Western Kenya, one of the missions that our team had was to be able to connect to some orphans and help them get connected to some local health care and health services. Many of the orphans in the area, they don't get basic checkups or get basic needs addressed, and so they end up perishing from highly preventable issues. And so we were doing some work and connecting different orphans, and before our team was able to help Jacobia, who was an orphan in Western Kenya, get connected to a local health clinic, she actually passed away. And it was something that was really traumatic for our team. We didn't even know that she was sick. She was scheduled a couple days out to be able to go to a health clinic, and in that span, she died from a preventable issue. And this is her brother and two sisters. They were highly traumatized by the death of their little sister, and it really affected our whole team and the community to watch such a cute, innocent little girl pass away from something that was actually quite preventable. It's important to understand that Jacobia is one of 25,000 children who die every single day from highly preventable issues in developing countries, from poverty, from basic things that with a little bit of information and a little bit of treatment available, these children would not die. And so, again, Jacobia is one story that I know personally, and there's 25,000 other stories just like her with names and faces and families and friends that care about them that pass every day. And so tonight I'm going to dive into some conceptual stuff and some theoretical stuff, but let's just kind of carry the story of Jacobia and recognizing the mortality of so many youngsters every day as an emotional piece that we can carry with us through the concepts. And while our team failed to help and support Jacobia in some life-saving work, we just reinvigorated our desire to be able to make sure that that won't happen again. Okay. So here's a story. We'll kind of start off here. This is a story of a community called El Naranjo in Colombia, and there's an organization called World Neighbors, which is actually quite a good organization. They do farming development work for poverty alleviation. But this was their first program, and it was about 20 years ago. And they showed up into this community. They saw the need. They saw this was a community of poor farmers. If they're farmers and they're poor, and farming is the way that they take care of their livelihood, then of course, what should they do as a development organization? They should help them farm better. And that was just a quick decision they made that made a lot of sense. And how do we farm in America? Well, we've got equipment and we've got a lot of other things. Let's just kind of help them the way that we would help ourselves. So they imported a tractor into this community in Colombia, and they also supported them with some other equipment. And by using this equipment, the community was able to produce more rice than they ever had so far. And in order to be able to sell that rice at a better price, what they did is they helped this community to develop a cooperative so that all the farmers would be able to collect their rice together. They'd ship it to a neighboring city where they could get a better price for it. They'd sell the rice there, and they all made more money. So as a result of World Neighbors being there, they produced more food than they had before, and they made more money than they had before. That's pretty awesome. They felt pretty good about the work that they did, and World Neighbors actually ended up leaving. And about 6 years later, the founder of the organization and of this project came back to check to see how things were. He was really sad to find out that just a couple of months after he left, the tractor had a basic mechanical problem. The community wasn't able to address it. And after that moment, the tractor never moved again. It was a pile of rust when he got there. The cooperative they'd band together was completely disbanded and was doing no cooperative work anymore. And he recognized right off the bat that the work that he had done, while it seemed really nice while they were there, provided no long-term efficacious results. But what was even worse was that the community members begged him to come back and help again. And he had this thought process, if what we did clearly provided no valuable impact to this community, why would they ask us to come back and help us again? And he realized something that's very, very important, and this is going to be a theme that we're going to keep coming back to for the rest of the night. He realized that they perceived the progress that they made dependent upon this foreign organization to come in. and that as soon as they left, their success failed. So what did they falsely learn about themselves? They learned that they weren't actually capable of being successful, and it's only with the support of an external organization that they'd be able to be successful. But really, as community members themselves, they don't really have the internal value to carry that forward. And so this is a philosophical conversation that we refer to as locus of control. We familiar with this term, locus of control? What it essentially refers to is where you believe control and change comes from. Those that have an external locus of control believe that change and control in their life comes from circumstances and from the environment. So this is an example in El Naranjo of the community members having an external locus of control. They believe that they weren't able to be able to enact positive change, and that they were waiting for another organization to come in and help to make change for them. People with an external locus of control, they look towards parents, government, NGOs, church. They look to outsourced sources to help to solve their problems. Those with an internal locus of control believe that change comes from right here. They believe that if they want something different in their lives, in their communities, or in their world, then the buck stops at them. That there's something that they can do to be able to step to the plate and be able to create some positive change in their circumstances and in their environment. So in other words, those with an external locus of control are waiting for change, and those with an internal locus of control are making change. So if we go back to the story of El Naranjo and we look at this model for a second, what do we see? We see that the work that they did and the way they went about doing it in the long run actually reinforced the external locus of control of the community members, therefore putting them even deeper in a position of apathy to be able to wait for other people to come and save them. And this is not just the situation in El Naranjo. There's been thousands and thousands of development programs just like these trying to be able to serve the 2 billion people that are living in extreme poverty. And I'm sure that some of you have probably heard that we spent over $1 trillion in foreign aid over the last 30 or 40 years, and we have very little results to show for it. Well, not only do we have little results to show for it, but as I've traveled throughout many different areas of the developing world, I've seen this reinforced external locus of control everywhere I go. The beggar mentality. People assuming that because you're white, you're going to come and give something to them, just like the organization did before, and they're looking for the handout that you've got available for them. And so we see that when we look deeper, we understand that poverty is not a simple solution. We can't just go in and give them a tractor and believe that we've solved poverty. Because poverty is a result of a myriad of different drivers that all come together synergistically to result in this thing we call the poverty cycle. The health issues, the environmental degradation, the malnutrition, the gender inequality, major diseases, lack of water, and so on and so forth. So to be able to understand poverty, we have to understand all these different roots that come together and result in the poverty cycle. What we also have to understand is that poverty doesn't exist as this amorphous concept. All that poverty really is it's all those roots that come together and result in the story of one person. One person's experiences. One person that has health challenges, vulnerable children that are left without parents, and the stories go on and on and on. So when we talk about 2 billion people that live in extreme poverty, what we're saying is there's 2 billion stories. 2 billion individuals, they have names, they have faces, they have families, they have aspirations, they have feelings, they have hopes, desires, and fears. And that's 2 billion of those stories that are experiencing many of these root issues on a regular basis. And the more that we understand the nature of poverty, the more that we're positioned to be able to serve. And when we look a little bit deeper and we understand what these root issues are and the people that are being affected by extreme poverty, we see the needs pretty clearly. We see that there's food needs, water, shelter, healthcare, education, social services, financial services, and so on. So there's things that community members that live in areas of extreme poverty need to be able to address their issues. And this is all what we're going to call tonight things and stuff. This is our first really technical term here, things and stuff. So people that live in extreme poverty, they're in need of certain things and stuff. Clean water, food, improved shelter, access to education, access to medications, vaccinations, et cetera, improve sanitation technology, the list goes on. So, okay, we get the fact that there's people that live in extreme poverty and they need certain things and stuff in order to solve these problems that they have on a daily basis. And what we're going to talk about tonight isn't so much the things and stuff, because the whole rest of the world at all the big debates are talking about what things and stuff do poor people need. What we're going to talk about tonight is how are we, as an international development industry or as a global community, supporting people that live in extreme poverty? How are we helping them to be able to get access to the things and stuff that they need to improve the quality of their lives sustainably? And that's the question we have to ask. So tonight, the overview here is what's broken, and we're going to use a symbol to represent international development work. We're going to talk about what's broken in volunteer tourism. That's going to be our handy icon for volunteer tourism. Then we're going to talk about what's working. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to, or give you a brief overview on how you'd actually implement this type of stuff.